Do you need to know music theory to write good songs? We're going to get to the answer to that in just a second. So this conversation, well, first of all, it's Teaching Tuesday, but shh, it's Wednesday. I have another video I'm working on that will come out probably next week. I was just a little more involved technically, and I got busy on a couple projects. That's my excuses, actually. So I decided we were going to talk about this particular topic, about music theory and songwriting. And this came out of some discussions, or a series of just kind of repeated discussions and questions that show up on a couple Discord servers I take part in, some online forums on songwriting, and it gets repeated over and over again. And that question might be, well, first of all, there's the generic, how do I start writing songs? We'll answer that question. But also, how do I know what notes, what chords go in, together, right? Really, they're talking about how do I understand what a key is. So there's two schools or two camps that seem to show up a lot in these conversations. There's those that understand music theory and are really into it, and so they kind of extol the virtues of understanding music theory, and they know which chords go together, and they understand the circle of fifths if you've ever seen that diagram. And then on the other side, there are those that have no understanding of what a key is or how to determine which chords go together. So I'm going to kind of suggest that somewhere between those two worlds is a happy medium where you can write great songs but not be a technical practitioner of music theory per se. Also, that isn't to say that music theory may not be helpful. We'll talk about that in a minute too. So to answer the question, do you need music theory to write great songs? The answer is definitely no, you don't. But yes, you do. And so I'm going to explain what I mean. I would contend that over the years, some of the greatest songwriters we know had no understanding of music theory. As a matter of fact, I was just reading an article where Paul McCartney, and certainly whether or not you like the Beatles or don't like the Beatles, he has certainly had some success as a songwriter, right? He's written a lot of songs, and he's written a lot of hit songs. So, I think it's worth exploring his kind of ideas on this. And he just says, look, he goes, I don't understand the notes on the page. I'm not a theorist or a practitioner on those things. I also saw an interview with John Mayer. He doesn't, read music. He more or less plays naturally kind of what he finds. Now, I think, understands because of his time at Berklee School of Music. He probably understands a bit more about scales and modes and things like that, although I would contend he probably doesn't rely on it as the primary method for writing songs. So what do I mean that you have to have some understanding of music theory? And how do you acquire that music theory? My belief is that music theory is kind of inferred for the songwriter, for the great bulk of them. And once again, this is not to say that there aren't people who really are in deep with music theory and understand it, that don't pull value out of there. And I'll explain kind of my take on that because I've jumped more into music theory later in life, although I believe I had this inferred understanding of music theory. Well, I know I did. So I'll express what that means and the way you get it. So Stephen King, who I've mentioned many times on this channel already, in his book on writing, and I think it's a great book to read whether you're a songwriter or a writer, and I do both. When asked how do you become a good writer, he said you read a lot and you write a lot. So he's talking about reading good material and then writing a lot to practice what you do. And we can use the same philosophy to talk about writing songs. So the first step in writing good songs is playing good songs, learning good songs. And I'm going to make the case, and we're going to grab my guitar here. I've said this a few times on this channel, I think in my last songwriting lesson. I think I've said it every single time, that if you want to write songs, you would do well to learn how to play guitar. Now, you can do great songwriting on a piano. It's extraordinarily versatile, and I know, we have any number of great composers who use piano as their primary instrument, and that's cool if that's what you do. My case for guitar, and specifically for acoustic guitar, is that it's extraordinarily portable, first of all. You can make beautiful noise very simply with a few chords, right? And so that's going to help you as a songwriter. It's going to kind of cut down the time it takes for you to start writing songs. But there's another reason, and we're going to talk about this and this kind of inferred understanding of music theory. It is visually represented on the guitar quite nicely. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and the patterns that become apparent as you learn more and more songs and what that means to your songwriting. So that's where I want to spend my time. And also with this understanding that just reading a list of chords that go together and understanding that, having it memorized, is not what's going to help you write great songs. So back to the idea of just learning to play songs and what that means to us and why it's important. So I'm going to start with just songs, we're going to say the key of G and the key of C. And we're going to start with that. You may not even know what that means, but that's okay. So what happens as you start to learn songs is you start to see repeated patterns. You start to see chords that go together. So for instance, if you're playing in the key of G, there's our G chord, right? What you're going to start to realize is that in songs that start with the key of G, and we won't get into songs that don't start on the tonic or the root note, but we're just going to think about songs that start on the key of, on the note of the key that they're in, okay? So the key of G. You're going to have a C chord, very likely, and a D chord or some variation of a D chord, and you're probably going to have an E minor. Now that's 4 chords, C or G, C, D, and E minor. And those represent numerically, once again, we're not covering theory, but just numerically, you'll start to learn over time that that's a 1 chord, the root of the note or the key that we're in, G. There's a 4 chord, the C. There's a 5 chord, the D. And then there's our E minor, which is 3 notes down from our tonic or our root note. So here's the G, 1, 2, 3. There's our E, E minor, okay? And I'm not going to kind of belabor this point, but I want you to see the pattern that starts to appear. So those 4 chords really account for a lot of popular music. Now, there are other chords, but we're just going to focus there for a minute so you can see the pattern. So we have a C, a G, a D, and E minor. Now, where do we see that appear? And if you start to, learn these songs, you're going to kind of see these patterns repeated. But we're going to go back to a classic song from the Eagles. I'm not going to play it all the way through. So, and hopefully I'm mostly on key when I'm singing. It's early morning, so please bear with me. Running down the road. Okay, so take it easy. Running down the road, trying to loosen my load. We're on G. Got 7 women on my mind. D and C. For they wanna own me on the G again. For the one to stone me, to the one to stone me once, that she's a friend of C. Mine ends on the G, and it sounds real resolved. G. Take it easy to the E minor. All right, so if you learn that song, you're going to see those are the chords that are used. Yes, there's an A minor, there's other things. We're not talking about that. I just want you to see those went together, right? And what you'll find is that a lot of songs you learn in the key of G are going to include those chords. And that's the pattern you'll start to see as you learn more and more songs. And that's going to show you what chords go together. Those chords, when you start with the G, go together. The C, the D, the E minor, and there are others. And the more songs you learn, the more that's going to become natural to you, that you're going to say, oh, when I play this chord, these other chords go with it. And that's an understanding, an inferred understanding of music theory. So now let's look at the same thing. Let's look at the key of C. So in the key of C, if you have songs that start in the key of C, what you're going to see is that there's a C chord, right? It's rooted on the 5th string, an F chord, and a G chord, okay? And then there is an A minor. Now that is the same corresponding chord as the E minor to the G. We'll explain that in a second. So we have a C, we have the F, which is the 4 chord, and we have the G, which is the 5 chord. And then 3 notes down from the C, 1, 2, 3, there's our open A, is our A minor. So 3 notes down in the same way that from a G, E minor is 3 notes down. seeing those patterns is going to help you, and it's also going to help you understand a couple other things. And we're going to show it with a song that I learned, one of the first songs I learned in C. Bob Dylan song, Blowing in the Wind. How many roads must a man walk down before you can call him a man? Okay, so what we've got is the C. How many, to the 4 chord, the F. Roads must a, back to the C, man walk. There's our A minor, the minor 6, down before you call him a man. And I don't want you to worry about the numbered notes, although those are important. Just to start, just see that those go together. But I want to show you something. So I can take the same, if I know that this is the 1, this is the 4, the F, G is the 5, and A minor is the minor 6, then I can play the same numerical equivalents in G, because I know them. I know that G is the 1, C is the 4, D is the 5, and E minor is my minor 6, right? So I can go, how many, okay, let's make sure we're in the right key. How many roads must a man walk down before you can call him a man? Okay, so the like chords can be used to change the key that we're playing a song in. And once again, you'll get this more inferred if you just learn lots of songs. You'll see the chords that go together. But the reason a guitar is really interesting for this is it reveals to us these patterns that can be extremely valuable in understanding chords that go together and being able to find them. And so I'm going to show you what those patterns are. You may have already kind of inferred or understood these just by learning songs, and maybe if you play bar chords. So we're going to use bar chords as a tool to show us these patterns. So using 6-string rooted chords, so the E-shaped bar chord, a G here, right? There's our root note, G. Now we look, and we could have seen it here with the open G, but we're just going to use bar chords because it makes it very apparent. The pattern that we're going to see is that if we play a G chord on the 6th string, rooted, that the 4th chord, the 4 chord, or the chord that goes with it, is directly below it, rooted on the 5th string. So the C is directly below it as an A-shaped bar chord. And then our 5 chord is 1 whole step up, or 2 frets up, right? So we have G, C, D. And then we still have our E minor, of course, okay? So we could say, how many roads must a man walk down before we can call him a man? Now that's the pattern. The pattern is from the root note, directly below it on the 5th string, rooted on the 5th string, is the 4, and 2 notes up from that is the 5th. So the pattern is root note, down, directly below it, up 2 frets. Now that means we can take that pattern and we can move it anywhere, okay? So now I can go up to the A. This is an A, right? Rooted on the 5th string. So, or I'm sorry, rooted on the 6th string on the 5th fret, A. Our 4 chord is directly below it, it's a D. And our 5th chord is 2 notes up from that, 2 frets up from that, and that's an E, right? And our minor, in the same fashion, is going to be down 3 notes. 1, 2, 3. It's the F sharp minor, okay? So, once again, hopefully I'm not pitchy on this. I probably will be. How many roads must a man walk down before you call him a man? Same pattern, right? So there's our 1, our 4, our 1, the minor 6, our 1, our 4, and our 5. Now I'm not teaching you blowing in the wind, so understand, I'm just showing you the pattern. The pattern is the root note, directly below it on the 5th string, is the 4, 2 notes up or 2 frets up from that is the 5, and 3 notes down from our root, 1, 2, 3, our minor 6, okay? Now that is true if we go up 2 more frets to the B. How many roads must a man walk down before you call him a man? Okay? And if we went up 1 more, now we're back at C. C, which we play here or here as a bar chord, right? So C to the F, right, is directly below it. That's an F, because here's our E, there's our F, right? And 2 notes up from that is our G. That's a G chord. Same chord as this, just in a different position. But that's our pattern. The pattern is rooted on the 6th string. Directly below it is the 4, up is the 5. Now, that's one pattern. You'll see that over and over again. It allows you to move a song anywhere on the neck. But we can do the same thing rooted on the 5th string. So let's take the key of C again, which we know is C, F, and G as our 1, 4, 5, and then our A minor. Okay? But we can do that as a bar chord, and here's the pattern that you should see. There's C, rooted on the 5th string. Now, we don't go directly above it to get to the 4. What we do is we go down two frets, and there's our 4, and then we go up. Our 5 is directly above. There's a relationship there that you should see. So we have C, F, G, and our A minor, okay? But that means I can take the same pattern, and I can do Blowing in the Wind as bar chords. How many roads must a man walk down before you call him a man? But I can take the same pattern now and move it up to a D, okay? Here's our D bar chord. That means that our 4 is up to the 6th string and down a whole step, or 2 frets, right? Same pattern we had from C to F. We see the same pattern from D to G. And then our 5th is the A, right? And our minor from D is down 3 frets. 1, 2, 3, B minor. Which, by the way, you start playing a lot of songs in D, you're going to see the B minor show up a lot because it's the minor 6. It's used in a zillion pop songs, right? So, how many roads must a man walk down before you call him a man? Okay? Same exact pattern, all right? By the way, we can use the same thing to go like this. Running down the road, trying to loosen my load. Got 7 women on my mind. There's our 5 and 4. That's how Take It Easy is done. The same pattern allows you to move songs all over the fretboard. So let's go up 1 more to the E. We have the E. Our 4 note is up to the 6th string and down 1 whole step, or 2 frets. So E is the 1 note, the root note. A is our 4. B is our 5 note. And our minor is C sharp minor. Okay. So, with that understanding, how many roads must a man walk down before you call him a man? Right? Same pattern, just repeats over and over again. Or if we were going to use Take It Easy, which does a 1, then goes 5 and 4, the 5 note and the 4 note, or the 5 chord and the 4 chord. Running down the road. Oh, well, I can't get the key. Running down the road, trying to loosen my load. I got 7 women on my mind. Sorry I'm so pitchy there, but you see the pattern. So the 1, the 4, the 5, that's the pattern when you start rooted on the 5th string, right? On the 6th string, the pattern is 1, directly below it is the 4, up 2 is the 5, okay? But rooted on the 5th string, if we start on the 5th string, then we have, for instance, in D, then that's the root note, 1. The 4 is the G, so it's up 1, it's up to the 6th string, and down a whole step, and up to the A. Now, once again, you could memorize all of this. You could do the pattern over and over again and play with those patterns all up and down the neck. But the most important thing, and really the lesson from all of this probably went longer than it needs to go, is that you need to play a lot of popular songs. Current songs, older songs, go back to the Beatles, learn something, the Eagles. Just take every single, decade and learn a couple pop songs from every decade. And what you're going to see is those same patterns continue to show up. And that doesn't mean there aren't songs that include a lot more seventh chords and diminished chords and all that stuff. That's not what we're talking about. I just want your average pop song. You're going to see these patterns show up again and again. And that's really the level of music theory that's needed to write great songs. And once again, this is not a knock on music theory. It's much more a way to give you a starting point to maybe remove some of the pressure you might feel to understand the depths of music theory, and instead go, oh, okay, if I just play a lot of songs, I'm going to start picking up patterns that are going to reveal to me a music theory that's inferred. And that's probably the most important skill that a songwriter will have. So hopefully you found that helpful. If you did, of course, leave a comment. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. Check out some of my music, other videos. And leave a comment if you have any questions. I want to cover this topic in greater detail. Maybe get a little more into some of the other chords that you can utilize, and also understand the basics of a major scale and the chords that are going to go in a given key. So we'll cover that in a future lesson. But once again, hope you found it helpful. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see ya.